A Nascent Kaleidoscope. Chapter 71. I, unfortunately, had to go back to that ridiculous store to purchase some materials. The way they treated me really grated on my nerves, and I couldn't actually get angry because they were nothing but polite. Realistically, I knew they couldn't possibly know my feelings, but my annoyance still simmered under the surface. It's not like I would take it out on people only doing their jobs, but it just made me not want to be there, and perhaps that shone through my expressions. Well, it wasn't entirely bad. I did find something interesting and got it on an impulse. I did make a promise to myself to learn stage magic. I figured it could be a little hobby of mine, but I seemed to put the cart before the horse. I shall name you Sir Wigglesbottom Fluffytail Octavius Benedict III. I held a rabbit up to the sky as it scrunched its little nose, cutely. Or just Sir Wiggles for short, because it wiggled its little butt at me when I first saw it. Did I mention this thing was intelligent? Really? Fuck you, it's a good name. What happened to the other two? We don't speak of them. I sat Sir Wiggles down next to me, and he was content to stay by my side. I asked him previously if he wanted to come with me. I promised to take care of all his needs and find him a worthy mate, so he seemed to accept. From what the salesperson told me, his mother was a jackrabbit, which was obvious by the small little antlers growing on his head. But apparently on his father's side, he is a very, very distant relation to Tepostacatl. I can't believe you made him your familiar. I can't believe you even questioned something like that at this point. Touché. It's not like I need a familiar, and I can't help that I fell in love with the little guy the moment I saw him. Frankly, I'm a cat person, but that doesn't mean I don't appreciate other little animals. I took out a head of lettuce that I still had from Skyrim and peeled off a few pieces to place down in front of him. All right, just don't go too far out. I'm setting up some magic stuff. I don't want you to get hurt or anything. I rubbed its little head with my finger. I think it nodded at me, and the link I had with him due to making him my familiar kind of gave the impression he understood. I just nodded and moved to the spots I marked yesterday. Surprisingly, it wasn't hard to turn something into a familiar. If it didn't have enough sapience, then it couldn't resist you at all. If it was intelligent enough, it simply had to agree and boom, new familiar. Hell, the magical formulas were known practically worldwide. You know what? I hope you make him the most powerful rabbit that ever lived. I paused. Drake, that is one of the greatest ideas you've ever had. I resolved to teach him magic in the future, after I learned how to pull him out of my hat. Is it considered cheating if I use actual magical to pull him out? Taking out a large steel pillar, I hefted it up and slammed it into the marked location, making sure it was nice and steady. Making sure it was all perfect, I did the same to the other 4 points around my house to set up the first boundary layer. I would start off by drawing runes on each pillar to reinforce several concepts around my home, both to protect it from the outside and inside. Should I include a geas that forcibly latches onto anyone I invite inside? A contract that is accepted when an invitation is extended and they agree to cross my threshold. Guest rights. It was a common notion across many civilizations, even if it usually goes by other names. A curious thought, I could probably force people to act within certain bounds if they are invited inside. On the flip side, I would also be bound by such limitations. But then again, I wouldn't exactly start a battle with anyone I willingly invited inside. Well, I should probably focus on external defenses, right? Hell, I don't even have any furniture yet. My thoughts were suddenly interrupted, as I felt space near me vibrate and bend in certain ways that indicated someone manipulating it. My head snapped to the side as I saw a young man pop over. The vibrations along the world were very hard to miss. There was no teleportation circle, no blatant magical phenomena as he appeared. He wore what looked like a school uniform with a cliché wizard's robe over it. Honestly, he appeared rather mundane, like if you told any random kid he was a wizard, that was how he would pretty much dress. Hello! He greeted me with a surprisingly amount of openness. I raised an eyebrow. Greetings. I'm George Faust, he said simply. I blinked for a moment, searching my memories. Named after the historical one? Yup, I'm his descendant. He seemed rather happy to say that little tidbit. Well, I can't exactly fault him for having pride in his origin. I mean, I named myself Schweinorg, but even still, I don't go around calling myself Zelretch. I remembered some things about this kid, some kind of magical prodigy, and he had a sacred gear, one I couldn't quite recall off the top of my head. It's not like I have a perfect memory, and I had quite a few things shoved in my head from my awakening. What can I do for you, George? I stood up, giving him my full attention. Well, he paused for a moment. Sorry, I'm not really good at this. Usually it's someone else doing this part. He scratched the back of his head. I kind of wanted to invite you to join the faction I'm in. He seemed unsure of himself, yet he still had a strange amount of confidence in the way he stood there. Pardon? I was a bit confused here. Well, I'm a part of the hero faction. We're basically descendants of heroes or reincarnations. Or just humans that want to protect humanity from the supernatural. He explained. Okay, some issues with that. I'm not a hero or whatever, and I'm only half human. Hero faction? I seem to recall them now, not something I gave much thought until this moment. Well, you're still half, he said with a smile. We care more about like-minded people. And from what I could find out, you aren't part of the devil faction, and even suffered at their hands. Suffered? I repeated the word. What exactly do you know about me? I'm not really famous. Actually, he pushed up his glasses. You got rather popular recently. Your father is one of the strongest in the world. Do you think being his son isn't going to draw attention? We're not the only ones that were gathering information on you. Well, fuck. Who is spreading information on me? Hell, who could possibly even know where I'm? That fucking golden store is selling info on me? George chuckled. You didn't know? They literally sell anything. Information is a commodity. Bastards even had the gall to call me a esteemed customer to my face and do this behind my back. I scowled. And I think there is some misinformation there. Suffered at their hands? A bit edgy there, don't you think? I was neglected and controlled. I wasn't exactly tortured or beaten. As much as I dislike them, I'm not going to go around saying stupid nonsense like he's spouting. He seemed a bit surprised at my words. I couldn't help but laugh. Did you think all it would take is pushing some of my buttons and I would hop on your hero train for some revenge against my birth father? I looked at him incredulously. Kid, I'm well aware of my own issues that came with my upbringing, but that doesn't mean I'm frothing at the mouth to get evened at. He frowned, hearing my words. Well, that usually works for some people. He said awkwardly, Would you still consider it? There aren't many magicians in our faction, and I would love to have someone to talk magic with. He sighed. I'm tired of those other idiots, too concerned with how hard they can punch. Okay, I sympathize with him slightly there. I'll pass. I'm busy with my own stuff right now. We have a lot of resources, magical grimoires, rare materials. Girls? He looked a bit shy as he said that last part. Are you pimping out your faction members to me? Boys! I'm considering smacking you. Sorry, I have a habit of sticking my foot in my mouth when I get nervous. He admitted with an awkward smile and red cheeks. Yeah, definitely giving this a hard pass. I'm not going to touch that dumpster fire with a 100-foot pole. Well, no one can't say I didn't try. He slumped his shoulders. Sorry, but boss said he needs you for some future plans regardless. He regained his composure, and a strange mist began to swirl around his body. I would have rather you worked with us willingly, but that's not a necessity. Ho, are you going to fight me? I raised an eyebrow at him. I would rather just grab you and bring you back to the boss. He smiled. As the mist exploded out, the world around me changed, rewritten by this kid's ability. I realized now what I was dealing with, the information coming to the forefront of my mind. Dimension lost? I said evenly. Oh, you know it. I thought you hadn't been in the supernatural world that long. His voice echoed out around me, even if his form disappeared. But that's one of the reasons we wanted you, I guess. The space around me had been changed from the normal flow of the world. A new dimension forcibly created overtopped the existing one. It was like a bastardized version of a reality marble, except instead of projecting one's inner world, it's this false one. Granted, it's nowhere near the level of a true reality marble, merely the feeling I first got when it appeared. A small smile curled up on my lips. Playing with space in front of me, you're 1,000 years too early. I withdrew Mirage from my ring and pulled on the kaleidoscope. The multitude of colors burst out. The iridescent light cascaded in every direction, pushing against the barriers of this dimension that George had created. There were many, many ways I could have gone about breaking the space, but I chose the most straightforward one. What are you doing?" I heard his panicked cries ring out from the surroundings as my magic began to usurp over his own dominion. "I guess a Longinus only amounts to this much." I smirked as I reached out my hand. The color scaled up the walls of this reality, consuming it entirely, and then I clenched my fingers. It shattered. Cracks rang out. Reality shifted back to normal as everything was realigned. I was once again in the outside world, staring down at the now shaking kid. "Why you? How? How did you break through my dimension lost?" He looked at me fearfully. "Yeah, these kids rely super heavily on their sacred gears. Must be a real kick in the balls to see it no sold like I just did." I ignored his question and continued walking towards him. "You know, I was content to end things where they were, but then you had to go and attack me." I shook my head. He almost fell to the ground as he turned around and began to run. Several spell circles created in his wake, with magical spells launching towards me. I frowned, my sword batting away most of them. "Chow chow!" George shouted, mist shooting out of his hand towards the distance, and a rip in the fabric of space opening up, connecting to another point. I felt something tingle on the back of my neck, a danger sense I had developed in the time with Scat Hack attempting to take my life if I was careless. A spear burst out of that little hole, the portal that connected to who knows where. Something shot right for me at a speed that was impressive. It didn't escape my notice. The feeling I got wasn't from the intense speed. No, it was from the presence of what was coming for me. Death. I felt death from this thing. It was antithetical to my existence. Something ingrained so deep into my very being. I brought up Mirage to block, my hand on the flat of my blade as the tip of a spear collided with it. I put my full strength behind my weapon, feet digging into the ground, and I felt myself get pushed back before finally stopping. I looked up. George was gone, and I saw a face in the distance, the one who attacked me, and his spear extended several hundred feet as it retracted back into the portal. My eyes narrowed as we shared one last look, and I mouthed a few words to him. His eyes widened, and I couldn't help but smile as he retreated with his companion. I let out a breath. I wasn't tired, nor was I even hurt in the slightest, but I was exhausted because I kept getting involved in all this crap that I didn't want to. Mirage returned to my ring, and I looked down at the ground. He managed to push me back a couple steps. It was impressive. "Draig, was that what I think it was? The true Longinus?" He replied, "Well, things are going to get more complicated, aren't they? Is it too much for me to just get some fucking time to relax? Assholes destroyed part of my lawn." I muttered, looking at where I was standing previously. Chapter 72. The True Longinus. It had been on my mind for a couple days now. I had set up many bounded fields around my home. Frankly, I think it would take even me some effort to break them down by brute force. And that's about all I could ask. They wouldn't keep anyone out that could truly threaten my life, but they were basically there to buy me time in an emergency. The true Longinus. It left an impression on me. Fear. I don't know if I would call it fear. It felt more primal, something that literally was antithetical to my existence, to my very core of being. It was like facing my mortality straight on. Was I scared? I don't think so, but I was definitely wary. The Spear of Destiny, it was an odd weapon. Any other weapon that went through what it did would have been classified as evil or demonic. Yet, it stands at the pinnacle of holy weapons in this world, even eclipsing the Caliban that boasts superiority of their broken Excalibur. The spear personally crafted, and meant to be the personal armament of the God of the Bible. How much divine blood did it drink? I don't think there is a pantheon still in existence that didn't donate their divine blood onto that weapon's spear tip. After wounding or killing divine beings all over the planet, it became something evil, something desiring more blood. It was through this that it developed its anti-divine properties. It has the abilities to push through divinity like it was non-existent to truly wound divine beings. It was not a weapon fitting one who sat upon the heavenly throne, regardless of how powerful it was. So the God of the Bible is perhaps the most obvious thing to rectify it, yet also the most ridiculous. He impaled himself upon his own spear. The spear thirsted for blood, divine blood, so why not give his own? His holy attribute was devoured and turned the spear into something more neutral, perhaps even bordering holy. But that was it. The amount of divine blood it drank from other pantheons was only stalemated by his own holiness added on. And again, It was turned into a proper weapon, but he still didn't take it back as his own. It was the first sacred gear, the test, so to speak. He sent it off to the mortal world, and centuries passed before someone managed to awaken it. This story was much more known. The man whose name was lost to history, was the spear named after him, or was he named after the spear? He who impaled Christ upon the cross. Saint Longinus. Hell, other sacred gears use the name Longinus to correlate to their god-killing ability. That just went to show how absurd the spear actually was when used against divine beings. Possessing no divinity, yet still retaining all the holiness of the Heavenly Father, the Son of God. Cleansed, amplified, and sanctified. The ritual that Jesus, King of the Jews, actualized upon his suffering, it changed the spear once again into its final form. It was supposed to be God sacrificing himself to relieve humanity of their sins, a grand ritual that spanned the entire world, powered by the sacrifice of a divine being. It would skew humanity in favor of good over evil, as humans naturally are neutral at birth. It was actually the reason that humans could naturally be born with the holy attribute from that point on. Was it planned? Honestly, I have no idea beyond just the cliff notes of what happened. I wouldn't put it past Big G to have planned that entire situation out. It would be killing multiple birds with a single stone. What a scary spear! I said to myself. Not just divine beings or devils. Anything with a dark attribute was prey for the holy spear. There is a reason it's rated as the strongest sacred gear. Drake added, making me pause again. Oh, you're admitting defeat. I heard him snort in annoyance. I'm relying on my partner, the spear. The spear can slay gods even with a novice if he gets lucky. I let out a small laugh. What a ridiculous weapon. He was exaggerating a little bit. Perhaps it could kill those lesser divine beings, like mountain or river gods. Hell, it could probably even wound a real god to a certain extent, but take any Olympian and put them in the path of a spear with a novice at the back, and they're getting bitch-slapped into the moon. But his point stands. Usually, divinity is almost like a barrier or wall that a mortal has trouble overcoming. It is a higher state of being. It naturally has advantages over those who are lesser. It's one of the reasons that if everything else is equal, two beings, one with divinity and the other without, the one with divinity would win in a fight hands down. It is one of the many reasons that mortal god slayers are so exalted throughout history. It isn't merely a matter of punching harder, though that can technically work. You need to overcome the natural state of a divine being existing above you, something that wields part of the world in their authority. Of course there are exceptions. Devils, for instance, they are counter to divine beings, similar to other races in the world. The giants of Norse and Greek myths, they could slay gods because they are the opposite side of the coin, so to speak. Opie, please nerf. I laughed, standing up from where I had been sitting on my porch. Perhaps my blood was even boiling a little bit. The idea that the spear could take my life if it gets any meaningful hit on me. Gods, I think Scat Hat corrupted me. I wondered how Gibalg would match up to it in combat. The spear my teacher crafted, that demonic spear that erupts in bloodlust every time it's used versus the holy spear that has slain gods. Well, I guess both spears have slain gods before. It's no sword yet. I felt some desire to possess it. Was it merely my greed acting up? Or maybe it was my nature as a devil that wanted to corrupt something holy. I mean, not really corrupt, but just added to my growing collection. Honestly, I had no overarching issue with the Heaven faction. As long as I'm left alone, I'm not going to go seek out conflict with them for no reason. The same goes for destroying their images or idols. But hey, if some idiot wants to donate their spear to me, who am I to refuse? Mr. Wiggles was off playing somewhere. I could faintly feel him through our connection. Honestly, all I planned for today was to train him. Indeed, I will make him the fiercest rabbit this world has ever seen. Ding. I blinked, pulling out my phone from my pocket. Hello, this is Izzy. I don't know if you remember me, Izzy. I stared at it for a moment before replying. Of course I remember you. Have you heard back from your kids yet? Wilhelm. Yes, I must thank you. Your advice has worked well. My youngest had responded, and he said he would visit me next month. Izzy. I'm glad when things work out. I think I needed some good news like this, even if it doesn't really affect me. I'm happy for you. Wilhelm. Thank you. I was wondering if you wish to meet up again tonight. I enjoyed the place last time. Izzy. I mulled it over. Perhaps I've been feeling more stress than I need to? I mean, I just came back to this world to essentially relax, and I keep getting roped into conflicts. Fuck it. Any reason to escape my dreary thoughts is good enough for me. That would be lovely. Wilhelm. Yes, I look forward to seeing you again. Izzy. See you then, smiley face. Wilhelm. Having friends is nice. Oh. I can show off the stage magic I've been learning. Sir. Wiggles. I shouted, and almost immediately I felt him bolt back towards me. Damn, he's fast. Well, what I should expect from a supernatural rabbit. I wonder what magics I should teach him. Maybe start off with elemental manipulation. He should be closer to nature, so perhaps that would be the best place to start. I admit, seeing him flinging fireballs around would be most amusing. Or perhaps freezing entire areas with vast arrays of ice magic. Then that would be difficult for him to move. Lightning is also an option, but then again, I use lightning a lot too. Shouldn't I teach him something to supplement me? Some druidism may work as well. It was where I derived the initial concepts for my bindings of Gaia's spell. Hey there, buddy. I held out my arms as he jumped right into them. You have fun. Images of him exploring the property and surroundings came through our link. He went pretty far out and even found someone to give him a carrot, and he was being smug about it. Aren't carrots technically bad for rabbits? Well, maybe him being a magic rabbit means that doesn't matter. I'm not his mother. He should know what he can and cannot eat. Ready to go meet my friend? We'll show her what we've been practicing. I did share my thoughts with him. I wouldn't just shove him in my hat and force him to perform with me. Who knew the little fluff ball had dreams of grandeur? Granted, he didn't exactly tell me that. More so sending feelings and impressions. Having a connection like this was odd. If I focused, I could feel what he was feeling basically through images, and somehow that would translate into something I could understand. I just shook my head. What an amusing familiar I picked up. I still need to create costumes for the future, especially one for Sir Wiggles. Matching hat, of course. Pulling a rabbit out of my hat while he wears a hat. Maybe even a little sweet and vest too. Well, this would be a good distraction. I need to stop stressing while on my little vacation. Chapter 73. I fixed my cuffs, pulled on my collar to make sure it was nice and straight, and I ran a finger along my tie to make sure there were no creases. My hand sneaked back and tugged lightly on my ponytail to make sure it was still nice and snug, bound by that little piece of fabric that Scat Hack used all those days ago, and I couldn't help but smile slightly at the memory. I fiddled with the buttons on my vest. Jacket or no jacket? I usually go with no jacket. I turned around to see how it looked from the back. How about Juggernaut Drive? That way you can die and put me out of my misery. If you're not going to be helpful. You know what? Go butt-ass naked. I'm sure that will draw lots of attention. You're being really aggressive. I have to live through this every day. I've never had a host be so obsessed with what they're wearing, and let me be clear, I have had female hosts before. Mildly sexist. Oh, come off it. I'm technically genderless. Females can be sexist against their own gender. That means nothing. I pointed out. And besides, you've never had a host look as good as I do. I smirked. Oh, there's the patented devil pride I've heard about. Sorry, the dragon says what? The dragon says, you're a little bitch. Yes, I, the Red Dragon Emperor, am a little bitch. I declared. I hate you. I snorted, holding back a laugh. Well, it could be worse, Drake. I set down a box I withdrew from my ring, opening it up to reveal several pairs of cufflinks. I could go around declaring myself a paid dragon. Little bitch it is then. No, what am I doing? I shut the small box. Way too gaudy for a casual get-together. I shook my head, putting them away. You need new shoes. I blinked, looking down out of instinct. You know what? I do need new shoes. I mean, it's not noticeable, but they were slightly scuffed in that little tussle I had the other day. Another reason to be annoyed with that idiot. I'm surprised. Why? Do you think I don't understand how to look good? Drake snorted. You know, I used to roll around in gold and jewels, so they would get stuck between my scales and make me glitter and shine better. You learn something new every day. Why are you even trying so hard? Are you planning on claiming her as well? First, I would use almost any excuse to dress up. It's enjoyable. Is that such a crime? And I want to look nice when I meet with my friend. I want to make a good impression. Second, we barely know each other. I rolled my eyes. I'm not trying to bang every girl I trade words with, regardless of how pretty was. Didn't stop you with Artoria. That. I stopped for a moment. Touché. I admit he had a point there, but it was a little different. I knew her before I knew her. I would be lying if I said my knowledge of her didn't skew my perceptions and perhaps give me a sort of idol in my mind. Regardless, I did not have any regrets with how things turned out. And now I couldn't help but think of her. Nope. No moping. I'm going out to have drinks with a new friend. I flipped my hat sitting nearby and set it on my head before adjusting it just right. Time to go. Izzy. I smiled brightly walking into the bar. It was once again empty minus us three. The owner just gave me a look before going about his business again. Hello, Wilhelm. She nodded at me, a small smile on her face. I took a seat next to her, the man behind the bar already placing a drink in front of me. I couldn't help but chuckle as I took a sip, almost coughing it up. Damn, that's strong. I forced it down, and it was not enjoyable that way. Needs to be sipped to appreciate more. How have you been? I have been doing very well. She turned towards me, fingering her own glass. I am excited that my youngest has decided to respond to my inquiries. As I mentioned in our correspondence over the phone, he will be visiting me next month. She keeps herself well reserved, but the excitement in her tone was palpable. Oh, I'm curious, what's he like? Abrasive, rash, prone to using his fists when he should use his words. She listed off, but he can be really sweet too. Even when his father and I separated, he was willing to express his intent to visit me, much to his father's anger. Isn't it usually the youngest that acts out the most? I suppose you are right. He is definitely a mama's boy. She smiled. His elder siblings are much more reserved, even if they have usually cause just as many messes. And how have you been? She inquired. Has your newfound fame been detrimental at all? Oof. I took another sip. Got attacked by a high schooler who looked like he was getting ready to play some D&D in his mom's basement. He also happened to actually know magic. She blinked at me, mulling over my statement. Are you hurt? She questioned. Oh no. Kid was as green as my grass. I waved her off. Well, at least before the little shit tore up a part of my yard. He had a sacred gear as well, as did his friend who tried to kill me too. I feel as though you are leaving out several important details. She deadpanned. Do not try to gloss over the important bits. Fine. I sighed. Wizard kid comes trying to recruit me. Called himself the descendant of George Faust. I don't know if you know who the famous magician who had a contract with Mephistopheles. She stated, to my surprise. She rolled her eyes at my look. I do know what goes on outside of my country. Of course. I smiled lightly. Anyways, kid is named George Faust. Don't know if he's actually named that or is trying to seem better than he really is. I shook my head. Tried to recruit me to his hero faction or some such nonsense. Basically, humans, heroes, descendants and whatnot who are trying to protect the human race from the supernatural. Did the idea of being a hero not catch your fancy? She propped her chin up with her hand. I sighed again. Who doesn't admire the idea of a hero, but reality is often much more disappointing. I fingered my glass for a moment. Besides, he tried to use my heritage as a reason to join. Something about suffering at the hands of the devils. I waved my hand flippantly. He seemed to jump straight to emotional manipulation to get me to join. Pretty weird for a first meeting. I take it he did not appreciate your rejection. She smiled in slight amusement. Nope, tried to use his sacred gear, dimension lost, to imprison me. I snorted, a small laugh escaping my lips. Went crying back home is what he did. Pardon. She interrupted me. Did you say you countered his dimension lost? One of those blasted things that is said to have the ability to kill gods. Aha! I see. You are stronger than I expected then. Long story short, his companion tried to impale me with his true Longinus. Izzy almost spit out her drink, slamming the cup back down before forcing the drink down her throat. The true Longinus. You've heard of it? Yes, I've heard of the divine spear that can kill gods with the ease that one can kill chickens. She deadpanned. Not only that, but is it not absolute poison to your kind? It is, but I didn't touch it. Huh, she knows more than I thought. You play a dangerous game. She shook her head. You should take your safety more seriously. Her words were rather gentle, and it seemed like she was upset that I acted in the way I did. I was not as flippant in how I acted in battle. I explained. I could feel the deadliness the spear threatened me with, and I acted appropriately. I wasn't intentionally trying to court death or anything. Anyways, let's talk about something more interesting, like my hat. I quickly set my hat on the table upside down. Your hat? She raised an eyebrow. Yes, you see, it has an interesting little function. I reached my hand deep in sand and voila! I pulled out Mr. Wiggles, setting him on the counter. She stared at me. I shot her a cocky smile right back. The bartender looked unamused by the prospect of having an animal on his bar. I slid a few gold coins his way, and he just shrugged. It was another moment before Izzy finally broke out in giggles. That is the most ridiculous thing I have seen in quite some time. She calmed herself down. Whatever could possess you to do this? Her hand hesitantly reached over to touch the ball of fluff. Well, my mom took me to see a stage magician when I was younger. I smiled at the memory, and I wanted to learn how to do those tricks as a sort of hobby. I actually came back to Japan as a sort of vacation, thought it would be a nice way to unwind and just enjoy myself. What is its name? By the look in her eyes, I could tell she wanted to hold him, so I allowed him to hop over to her a bit. She looked surprised that he was willing to get so close to her. I guess I was used to her aura of death, that I sometimes forgot it was even there. Staying in the land of shadows kind of desensitized me to such things. He is Sir Wigglesbottom Fluffytail Octavius Benedict III, Crown Prince of the Emerald Kingdom. You just keep adding more onto it every time you say his name. Yup, or just Sir Wiggles for short. She had a warm smile on her face as Sir Wiggles allowed her to embrace him. Hello, Your Highness, she cooed, gently rubbing his little head. I could tell through the link that he was enjoying himself even if her presence was intimidating to him. I think the fact that I was calm in her presence kind of trickled down to him. I also made him my familiar. She let out a cute little laugh as he scrunched his nose. It seems you were intelligent enough to bind such an immaculate creature to you. Was that her way of saying I was smart to get such a cute little thing as my familiar? I did find the way she switched between the way she talked sometimes. Like she was used to speaking in a more archaic fashion, yet sometimes talked like she was on the internet. Would you like to see the picture I took since I got him? Yes. She blinked, staring at me bashfully. I mean, yes, I would enjoy seeing them. Chapter 74. Welcome to the Supernatural Online Message Boards. You are currently logged in, Nascent_Kaleidoscope. You are viewing threads you have replied to, and threads that have new replies, or private message conversations with new replies. Thread OP is displayed. Last 10 messages in private message history. Threads and private messages are ordered by user custom preference. This chapter represents author interaction. Chapter 75. I had materials thrown about all around my house, floorboards ripped up, holes in the walls as cables and support beams jutted out at all angles. Notes were tapped to the wall and scattered all around the floor. All kinds of scribbles, calculations, and otherwise nonsense if you had no idea what it meant. At the center was a strange scaffolding, almost like a holster for a familiar sword. Mirage was propped up, several spell circles overlaid underneath, and runes carved all along the wooden and steel frame that held it aloft. But it wasn't just mundane materials. Intertwined with all the many pieces were bones, dragon bones. The ones pillages from that undead dragon back in Skyrim. There were also a few books stacked to the side, bookmarked or haphazardly thrown open to certain pages and marked. 3 days. I scowled. 3 days, and I'm still not any closer to cracking this. I huffed in annoyance, tossing a book to the side. I don't understand. I'm doing everything the directions say, yet I can't seem to do it correctly. Have you tried not sucking? Wonderful advice. I drawled. I can literally overturn the world's laws, yet I can't do something so simple. Why don't you take a break? Do something easier, like play with your magic. I sighed, looking at Sir Wiggles sleeping soundly on a little bed I bought him. I had the urge to go pet him, but I would respect his nap. Yeah, I'll just take a break and do something easier, like mess with both the time and world axis to overlay multiple spatial folds across world lines. I set down the deck of cards I was fiddling with and kicked away the book on card magic I had picked up from a store the other day. Can do real magic, can't even fucking do a sleight of hand thing with cards. I threw my hands up in exasperation. How's the project going? Oh, this. I flicked my sword, still bound into the mechanism of the spell formulation. Saw this the other day. You going to test it? Yeah, I need another location. My first thought was New York. It was a good distance away and a good centralized spot for supernatural shenanigans, but isn't that angel territory? I crossed my arms with a frown. I'm pretty sure angels claim dominion over the entire earth. Don't be a smartass. Fine. I waved him off. Yeah, the angels basically claim America and Canada, except for the areas where the Native Americans took up residence. Really, I don't think there are any groups in the world who would pick a fight with the last vestiges of the Native American supernatural community, and that's entirely out of pity. What happened in the early days of colonization, let's just say the mundane side was not nearly as bad as the supernatural one. I think it was the first time the world saw gods be tortured to death by mortals. Not even assholish deities, just your average divine beings, being pulled apart at the metaphysical seams and returned to the void of creation. Yeah, even the angels, back when they were much more zealous, actually felt bad for the Native American pagans, to the point where they put out decrees to never harm them unless absolutely necessary. That whole thing led to the South American pantheons basically waging war against the invaders. What a shit show that was. My sword began to power up, so to speak. The strange mechanisms reacted, even if it looked utterly absurd in creation. It's not my fault that I'm trying to deal with 5 dimensions and keeping it anchored into this lower dimension. I wanted to sit down, but my sofa was currently littered with materials and other doodads. I really need to get more furniture, I muttered, withdrawing a chair from my ring. The rune lit up, the cable snapped to attentions. I couldn't help but smile as I watched the dragon bones hold firm. Even if they were decayed by necromantic magics, they were still extremely sturdy and more durable than nearly any material I could get my hands on in the immediate time frame. Well, I'll let the initial calculation start up. I eyed it one last time. While I won't be using my sword as the true focus, it can still be used temporarily to get everything started. The calculations would be annoying if I had to do them by hand. Much worse than simply popping over from one world to the next, and that took me days to finish. But I couldn't help but smile as everything came together. My project, more so just a small bit of passion, was working. No deadlines, no incessant need, merely the desire to create this. Now I want to celebrate. Should I order in? I tilted my head back, staring at the ceiling. I'm in the mood for some pizza. That sounds good actually. How about some pineapple? I will divorce you if you put pineapple on my pizza. I snorted, a small smile on my face. I'm kidding, relax. Frankly, I don't like pineapple on my pizza, nor do I care about people who do. I just like the joke. And what do you mean your pizza? It's all going into my belly. Well, I get to taste it at least. Wait, what? Drake made an amused noise. You didn't know. If I knew, I wouldn't be confused. I deadpanned. This is rare. I know something you don't. I don't think I'll explain. All right, where did I put that white spray paint? Someone pissed in your Cheerios. How do you even know those words? Have you forgotten that I watched through your memories? Maybe. Fuck off. Well, with a little bit of effort, I can share some of your senses, predominantly taste. Oh, that is significantly less bad than I was assuming you were going to say. That raised a few interesting questions. What's your favorite food? Oh, I haven't really thought about that. Drake seemed genuinely interested. Remember your date with Artoria, the fair in America? Oh, I exclaimed. The turkey wrapped in bacon? Oh, that was good, but no, almost though. I felt like I saw him shake his head. It was that really thick bacon, fried in that little dash of brown sugar. That was amazing. That was good. I briefly recalled that particular memory. Americans sure know how to make tasty food. And now I'm craving that again, damn it, Drake. What a strange conversation his has become. I felt my phone buzz. I took it out to read a new message. Hello, Wilhelm. How are you doing? Izzy. I smiled lightly as I began to text back. I'm good, what's up? Wilhelm. I have a hypothetical question. Izzy. And I have a hypothetical answer, what's wrong? Wilhelm. Say that a child was intended to be sacrificed to bring back a spirit from Yomi, and I noticed what was going on, and perhaps I may have distorted the ritual ever so slightly, but I was late by a single breath. Izzy. I paused, reading what she wrote several times. I would say you are a good person for stopping that. Wilhelm. I appreciate your words, but I wasn't finished. Hypothetically, what if said child fell into Yomi, unconscious, while the ritual imploded on itself? Izzy. I would say this is a bad situation and would require immediate attention. Wilhelm. Just as I sent the message, there was a knock on my door. I blinked for a moment before going to answer. Hello. A very familiar face answered. Izzy, how bad is the situation? I eyed her uneasiness. How did she even know where I lived? Questions for later. Oh, it is very bad, she said almost comically straight. The child is the only daughter of Yasaka. I facepalmed rather hard. As in the Yukai leader, Nine-Tailed Fox, Miko for Amaterasu. Indeed, she replied. And you came to me? I questioned her thoughts. Why not go to Yasaka? I'm sure she would be, not thrilled, but also not angry at you for bringing her such information. I am. She looked down. Not exactly welcomed in her court. And I do not believe I would retain any trust if I told her what happened. And I do not have anyone else. Oh, now I feel bad. I smiled gently. All right, we just have to go rescue a little kitsune from Yomi, right? No big deal. I try to cheer her up. So, do you know where the ritual site is? I can probably force back open a portal, piggybacking off the initially link. I tapped my finger against my chin. I don't really want to get involved in nonsense like this again, but my weak spots were hit quite hard. I really do have a soft spot for children, and my friend was asking me for help. How could I say no? No need. I can create a portal anywhere, she said with confidence. Oh, that's convenient. I wonder how. I'm curious to see how it works. I just hope Izanami is not as the myths describe her. I did have cards to play against her if it came to blows. The deities here were much weaker than those from my home, so I had some amount of confidence. She waved her hand. The ground literally deformed, jutted out and burst forth as a stone scaffold raised from the ground and a portal formed in between the stone pillars. Reminds me of the Land of Shadows. I couldn't help but mutter. Land of Shadows. Izzy's head jerked towards me. Is that not the land of the dead over in the United Kingdom? One of them. I smiled. Anyways, how do you wish to do this? Have you experienced going into Yomi? I still had no idea what she was to be able to go into Yomi so easily. She is no doubt powerful. Perhaps some kind of spiritual beings. I will lead the way. I just shrugged, holding my hand out as Mirage flew into it. Let's go, Sir Wiggles, I said quietly. He bolted up and jumped into my hat, which I was holding upside down for him. I briefly saw the desire in Izzy's eyes to pet him again, but she held back. Follow my steps closely. She ushered me forward as we stepped through. It was a familiar setting, yet so different. The air was thick with death and decay, yet the coldness wasn't as pronounced. It was darker, like shadows making their own shadows, as ridiculous as that sounds. Izzy navigated it expertly, knowing where to walk, where to avoid as to not accidentally get swept up in the void between spaces. We finally came to what looked like a house, which was surprisingly, because I knew of only one being who would have a house here. Does you know who lived there? Yes, Izzy replied. Is it wise to go there? Nothing happens here without her knowledge. Don't worry, she already knows we are here and is welcoming. She stepped up, opening the door. I'm curious how you would KN. Welcome to my home. She cut me off. Oh. Drake just started laughing at me.